Internet, the final frontier. These are the podcasts of Up for a Challenge. Its continuing mission to seek out new dares and new things to do. To boldly go where no one has gone before. Is that good?
All right, I will be back while you look at things from your business.
I'm gonna find this coffee. Coffee. I'm just going to write Coffee Deep Space Nine because I'm not even sure what to tell it to look for. Trying to remember who. I want to say Gul Dukat would always. Raktajino. That's it.
Raktajino?
It was called Raktajino.
So like a cappuccino, but with rocks?
Let me just double check.
He subliminally heard that.
Oh, it's not. It is Raktajino, but it was actually a Klingon coffee, but it was popular on the Deep Space Promenade. On Deep Space Nine. It was Raktajino.
Because Worf was there. Worf was there in that series.
Yeah,
wasn't
but he did. Yeah, he joined the last like 2 or 3 seasons, but they were drinking it before that because I remember that was like their go-to drink at the bar because they didn't want to drink the synthanol or the whatever it was. Raktajino. Yep.
Raktajino. Cappuccino made from rocks and Klingon babies. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I feel the warrior spirit within. Yes, sorry.
So we were watching BBC America has been showing Doctor Who like 24 hours a day. So my brother is sick because he's got the sinus infection, so he comes out every once in a while. So we were watching it last night. My brother half asleep on the couch, Kayla trying to watch it and trying to understand it, and poor Charlie. They took her to the doctor this morning. She's got a sinus infection and an ear infection.
No.
So she was hilarious to watch last night because she's so tired. She's so tired, but was in pain, so she wouldn't go to bed. So she was like drunk girl trying to stay awake. And so, yeah. So as occasionally something would happen on the screen too, and Kayla would ask a question. So my brother would just reflexively pause it so that I could turn and explain to Kayla what was happening or what the relationship was, and then my brother would start it again. So we were a very weird sight last night.
Oh, I was in a horrible way. I got a migraine last night.
Oh.
And that's why I sound all gravelly, because after a migraine, I always get run down a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
It's like, I'm so glad we're doing a podcast, and I sound so sunny.
Well, I'll try to be that. I'll be the sunny one today. I know.
Cool. We'll switch.
I'll be the happy and bright and aloof one. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la.
So is that what you think? I'm aloof? I'm aloofa.
What?
I exfoliate.
You're aloofa. You are. I think that's my word for this entire break. Everyone is aloof. Everyone is aloof. Except for me. I'm the only one that's willing to engage.
Engage. I'm sorry.
Well, that's a way to tie it together with the Raktajino.
I know, right?
Jeff's not back on. We can't confirm. He did yell it out, though, didn't he? You said?
Yeah, I thought he subliminally heard it.
He might have heard
by
me.
us talking about, and then was like, "Oh, is it this?" Because little your subconscious hears things, and like your little gremlins work. I go, "Nee," and then I can only imagine what the video feed is of me doing.
I always sincerely believe too. There's like that group mind, that group think stuff, because there's times when I've had like an idea for like a show or like I don't know, something, and all of a sudden like 3 months later it exists out in the world, and I'm like, I didn't tell anybody about it, but
the
I guess
universe,
it was just an idea out there, and everyone just kind of grabbed onto it. Hey Jeff,
what did everyone grab onto? Adam's what?
The universal mitochondria.
Yeah, the universal mitochondria.
I see. Hey, was the answer to the trivia question today Raktajino?
It was.
Yes, we were just speaking about that.
Right when you screamed it out was right when I found it on my phone, and when I read it, I was like, "Oh, of course." So you read it as I found it, which was very strange. And
I think I vaguely heard you say something like the word, and because of the delay, by the time I said it, you had long since found it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because we've got the delay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting fact, because we were trying to find it, it was a Klingon coffee. It was just very popular on the Deep Space Nine promenade. All the different officers and Odo and everybody would drink it. But
gotta have them waking hours when you're on patrol on DS9.
If you're on the night shift, the late shift,
working on the night moves.
It's always night in space.
Trying to catch them gray spoonhead blues.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in space, it's a dark void, right? So they'd have to have like a light cycle, but that's assuming that everyone has a human light cycle, and so
well, that's what I even had that. Yeah, because it's like whose calendar year and rotation do you set it to? I even had that question. The Doctor Who Christmas special, there was a reference to one night on a certain planet is 24 years. I'm like, well, who's 24 years? So, but whatever. I was thinking too hard. I should have just gone, because that's what the line was supposed to make you do.
Oh. Was it good? I haven't seen it yet. Was it delightful?
I feel nothing.
It was very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I won't say anything more than that.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Because people have been very kind and haven't spoiled anything about Star Wars for me yet, which I'm going to go see this afternoon finally.
Yay!
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of this afternoon, we're going to see Ben this afternoon.
So we are.
We'll say hello to him.
Cool. Are you going to lift him up in a chair and do all the wedding stuff?
Well, we're in his grandma's house, so I don't know.
In his Opa's house?
Opa!
Yeah, Opa. He can be whatever he wants to be.
He might be.
Oma.
We can do all the religions.
There we go. That's what I meant.
All right. Are you ready to go live?
Oh, we're not live yet? We're just entertaining?
No. We're just entertaining. Yeah. This is all pre-roll now.
Jeff never gets to be part of the pre-show, so he wants to be part of the pre-show.
I don't. Are we ready?
Yeah. We're ready.
Adam, you did interpret that line reading correctly.
I don't.
All right, here we go. Starting broadcast.
I
hit the button.
2, 1. Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to say 1.
Delay. Wait for it. Going live. Eventually.
Live!
Are you You got live before me. Yay! All right, we are live.
Welcome.
We might as well just keep talking about Raktajinos.
Raktajino. Is
I'm
it Raktajinos or
Raktajino?
I think it depends.
Both.
I don't like it when I see a movie and someone says someone's name as it is written on the page and says it differently from another character who is reading it who is saying the name as it was written on the page, because you assume that the only way you learned this other character's name was by hearing it. And I've actually heard, I think Patrick Stewart on some Star Trek thing somewhere do that, where he would say a name that someone else had said earlier, and unless he read it somewhere, which in the context of the story I don't think happened, he said it, or maybe it wasn't him. He's too good of an actor for that. But anyway, but then again, we all do get tired. So maybe it was one of those 3 a.m. next-gen shoots, hasn't seen his family in a week.
Doesn't everybody in the original Star Wars call Han Solo Han? Because I distinctly remember Leia going,
I know
Han,
that Colt 45 does.
After what you did to Han. No, but Leia goes, oh, when she's with Landon, she's like, you think we're going to trust you after what you did to Han? Then it changes to Han. I'm just saying.
Well, in fairness to Carrie Fisher, I saw her in an interview on a press junket, and she said she was drunk most of the time when they were filming The Empire Strikes Back.
Really?
Wow.
She said she was drunk the majority of the time. So
she had a rough go, right?
Yeah.
But she's better now.
Yeah, my understanding, yeah.
I mean, I know it's always a struggle, but...
Yeah. And you know what? I just learned, too... Well, not just learned, but I guess maybe a month ago now, but I'm just sharing it, that her daughter is Lord... Oh, wait, is it something Lord? Billy Lord. That's her name, isn't it? Billy Lord? And she was the girl on Scream Queens that had the earmuffs on all the time.
I didn't watch Scream Queens.
Wait,
okay.
The Little Miss Sunshine?
No, that's Abigail Breslin. She was the girl that everyone said her her vagina had teeth.
Oh.
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry. No. The girls in the sorority, the queen bee, would mercilessly make fun of the two Chanels because she didn't bother to learn their name.
I thought you meant
Right.
OK Magazine was saying that about the person.
Because there's the tiny blonde one who used to be on American Horror Story.
Right. She was the head one that everyone. She was terrible.
Right.
I mean, terrible in a good way.
Right. Then there was Little Miss Sunshine. Then there was Leah Michelle, who was like the nerd. I don't know. I've only kind of watched one episode, so I know. And then there's the other one.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I like that we're keeping with the
So her
tradition
daughter's
that
the
I
other
try
one?
to go with as neutral of a background as possible. Sarah's kind of in the middle with the door, and Adam always has stuff.
Yeah, I always.
Well,
have
I'm
lots
in
of
my
cool
childhood
stuff.
room, so.
Which
And
will be
I am in-
appropriate for today's challenge.
And I am in a child's room.
I've got like I could rotate my screen around and we could see what little Sarah.
I don't know
was
that we
like,
have the
but
bandwidth to handle
I will
that
save
right now.
that. I know I will
But
save
I
that
did
for a
bring
later time.
to make it feel like home. I did bring a piece of the studio with me. So
That's
now,
nice.
and there we go. My sound is baffled.
Ooh, yeah, it's so much better now. Ooh.
Yeah,
Right?
right. Sounds
It's
so
really
good.
absorbing.
I sound so hamburglery. Robble robble. Oh, I'm a big purple guy. I made a milkshake. I think Grimace was made a milkshake.
I
who cares?
have a voodoo doll that I kept in my desk.
Is
Why?
The high school
is it?
years. Someone
Is it me?
No, someone went to
Somebody made a pasta.
to Nollins and like for something and got it for me because they knew I like to collect cultural things like from around the world, and so they got me this.
Meanwhile, I have stolen a mug from the kitchen.
I just like that he has. I would like to say he has curly hair that's kind of crazy.
It looks like a halo. It's a little distorted on my end, but
He's got big curly hair.
So
I
what
don't know.
happens if you pull his arm?
I don't know. He doesn't really have arms. He's kind of like a
Oh,
scarecrow.
no. Oh no. Well, then you will miss
But the
him
pin
most of
is
all.
in his heart, so there you go. Right?
So,
most of all. What, sorry.
speaking of childhood rooms and things, and Raktajinos and random things, and speaking of impossible segues,
well done.
Sarah and Adam, you had a challenge this week to get to know each other a little better.
Yeah.
And I believe it was through a series of phone calls, and you'll tell us all about it. But when last we left our heroes, I remember that you guys were going to call each other once a day for like 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And Adam, I don't know if you stuck to it or not, but we'll find out. Adam said he had a barrage of questions that he uses traditionally in devising theater pieces that he might use, and so I just thought I'd see, what happened, and are you still speaking to each other? I will
No,
take my
we're
answer
not.
off the air.
All right, I'm back. I'll go on for the good of the show. All right.
We just did the same joke.
Oh, we did? Awesome. Well, good. Well, that's what happens when you talk to each other every day for a week.
Well, we've at least avoided the alternate timeline, Adam, where you are a mountain man holed up away somewhere that we don't see
I
for a
am
decade.
still not convinced that that all timelines
No,
will converge
I think we had a
upon that
close
one
shot.
at some point.
We had a close shot there, but now I think you've lured you out of the.
We'll talk about that one day.
Maybe that was a warning shot. All right,
It
all right,
was across the bow.
But back
Yeah.
to this challenge. So you are speaking to each other, and you did speak to each other this week. And
Yes.
what happened? I'm going to sit back here in my fancy therapy chair, and
It was
let's
good.
all hash it
The
out.
first time we spoke, because we commented on it during our other conversations, we were both very socially awkward, and we just sort of talked about superficial things.
It was
'Cause I don't
literally
know.
the conversational, like that we talked about the weather. We touched on
Yeah.
politics very briefly. Like it was literally
You literally
sort of-
talked about the weather.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it was kind of extreme, but the weather was
Sure.
extreme. Not the the conversation was delightful, but
yeah,
the conversation was extreme.
Yeah, to be fair, where you guys are, you have been under flood watch for a week now. So it was something to talk about. But we're
both... actually floating right now. We're on a lazy river right now, so it's good.
But yes, but we did talk, and so so the the requirements for the week was that we talked. We actually FaceTimed because Sara refuses to talk on a phone, and we actually FaceTimed.
Or as Sara calls it, face chatting.
Right,
we face chatted.
So we the minimum was we had to FaceTime for a minimum of 15 minutes every day, and there were some days where we just could hit the minimum because, to be fair, this is Christmas week, so maybe it was an unfair extra challenge to try and layer on to that, meeting for 15 minutes. But there were some days where we went like as long as like 40 minutes, and there were some days where it was the perfunctory 15. But but Sara and I, like, we probably talked. We were talked for about 30 minutes or more that first day. But then we both commented on that Tuesday when we reconnected again that it felt like it was a very surface level conversations. There were a couple of moments where it was like it would start to go a bit deeper, and then we would like steer away from that. So, and we both,
because we comment on how socially awkward we were. It's almost like a weird first date, but like not, you know what I mean? It's because you're trying to get to know someone and you want to be like delightful and charming or whatever the fuck you want to be, and
it sounded to me actually like a middle school dance.
Yes, it was very much like we're doing this,
So
leave enough room for the Holy Spirit.
What we actually came here to do is to get to know each other, but let's not do that. Let's talk about the punch.
Well, it's like we were going through the motions of it, and anytime we, I don't know, sensed any deeper conversation, we ran away from it. But again, it's also, it's a bit of a weird challenge to put on people. We were.
Says the guy who issued the challenge.
But it is. We're asking, because the requirement wasn't to have deep and meaningful conversations. The requirement was just to talk for 15 minutes every day. And if it went that direction, and again, coming back to the questions, I opted not to go that way just because it felt like the first day was going to be a check-in anyway. And then after the sort of mood and nature of the first day, it felt like that was not the way to go because I didn't want to make the whole week seem like an interview.
Like clinical. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I made the choice after that first day to kind of, I guess, not do that and just try and listen and be engaged and just, bounce off of each other. But going back,
and that was nice. But I like that we acknowledged that we both had the discovery and realized we don't really talk to people on the phone, and we don't really, like my
talk to a lot of people in general.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're not antisocial, but
Right, but because you were saying a large part of your day, at least right now, that's going to change a little bit with new jobs, but a large part of your day is being at home. And a large part of my day is, yes, I go to a place and I work and I'm interacting with teaching artists and stuff. But once I come home and on the weekends, I'm pretty much by myself. Like, unless I'm talking to you guys for a podcast, I'm singing to myself in the house. I may be, muttering to myself or saying things out loud. But you know what I mean? I'm not engaging with another person. So I really walked away from that first night going, I don't think I know how to talk to people anymore. I've lost the art of conversation. Maybe I don't know. Not that I was ever great at it to begin with, but
don't judge.
I had that experience at a party recently. I was on the couch and I looked at Aaron and I said, I don't know how to social anymore.
Yeah.
What do I do?
But it's, and I look at, I have a friend named Chet, and he's been divorced for almost 20 years now, and he's been single that whole time. And he's got a routine. He lives by himself. He's got a son. And it's the same thing. He's not particularly antisocial. He has friends, but he mostly stays at home. And he's comfortable with that existence. And I don't know, I guess this challenge then made me confront that idea a little bit that, I was like, okay, yeah, my living situation, my setup and what it is kind of like that for the last, 5, maybe 6 or 7 years. it's been sort of winnowing to that. I mean, and part of that was where I was living when I was still back in Columbus. I lived out in the middle of nowhere, right in Harris County. I mean, it was a 20-minute trek to get there. So
yeah.
But again, it was just part of the sort of natural order of my life that I tend to be isolated, I guess.
And is that something that you're looking to change now, or was there anything that was brought to light about?
I
was going to say, is there anything, just to finish that, is there anything brought to life about the way you're living right now that you are now looking to change?
I think for me, it's I want to have still the option, or you know what I mean? I don't want the fact that I tend to be withdrawn from social situations to be a result of fear, or that's just what I do, as opposed to it being a choice. You know what I mean? That I can choose to engage, or I can choose to be alone, but I'm not defaulting to one because it's a default. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing it out of a place of fear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And I don't know how many people you know up there in Charlotte now that, outside of work. I don't know who you hang out with, or if you hang out with people, or...
Yeah, nobody.
Are there people around that are your age, like contemporary wise, or the reason I'm probing is actually because I see an interesting overlap with Sara and Sara stuff that you've talked about before, where you want to hang out with people, but there's sometimes a disconnect on how to get there and how to do that, because we're all at the ages where a lot of friendships are established and people have their circles and they go do what they do.
And that was a large part of our Tuesday conversation. So take it, Sara.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was just, I was talking about how, I try to have relationships with people, and I feel like I always try to invite them over, or I try to, invite them to go do something. But I feel like when it's reversed, I'm never the person people call to hang out with, or like, hey, come, let's go do something. You know what I mean? And so, it really kind of gets in your head of, well, what's wrong with me that I'm, you know what I mean, that I'm not, you know what I mean, even though I try to be inviting and I try to be, where's the disconnect? And I realize that, I can sometimes come off as being cold and blunt, and that's never my intention, but I'm just very honest, and I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but it bums you out, you try to connect with people, and it's either you're too much for them, or they're also socially awkward, and so then you just have a bunch of lonely, socially awkward people.
Well, there's not just that.
Around.
There's something that ties the two of you together, something else that ties the two of you together as far as the behavior pattern goes and your life. You both went away from a home base. Adam, I know you're not originally from Columbus, but you did establish a pretty large kind of home base there. And then after college, a lot of our mutual friends dispersed. And then when you moved to Harris County, you were sort of on your own. I know you had gone to Kentucky before then and between then and stuff. But a lot of your base spread out. And then you moved to Kentucky after being isolated in Harris County. And so your base was even more gone. And now you're in Charlotte, again, where you don't know people. And Sara, you went to North Carolina, actually, for school, which was not where your home base was. And so you had to make a whole new social circle, which you had. But then you went to, was it California was next?
California was next, yeah.
California was next, and your social circle that you had developed on the entire other side of the country, because North Carolina and Georgia, it's not too far. You could make that work. But now you were all the way on the other side of the country, and then you went to Oregon. And so you guys, I think, kept taking what I think is the really interesting adventure of going somewhere new and meeting new people and stuff that I think a lot of people would be envious over that maybe did not take that chance. And maybe some of the reason people don't take that chance is the result of not having a social base like that. But I celebrate the adventure that you guys went on by dropping yourselves intentionally in these new places. And now maybe we're dealing with the fact that both of you are socially figuring out, well,
I also
who's my
think
base? Where's my base?
Right, but it's also, and Adam and I talked about this, is that we get antsy after a certain amount of time because, we're used to, I'm used to moving after a couple of years, and so, Atlanta is sort of like that. I've decided to be in the city, and now I'm making, social friends that, we all meet and go to trivia, but, I've yet to establish my inner circle. I don't know. It sounds like, there are friends, but they're not my friend or whatever. What is it? He's a friend of mine. He's a friend of ours. It's reverse, right? For the mafia. Go with me on this one.
Okay. Yes. This little thing of ours, Cosa Nostra.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Wait, I thought that was. Oh no, I'm thinking of the ear pull.
That's Carol Burnett. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of.
That's a different mafia. Yeah. Her and Tim Conway. Yeah.
And my best friend right now is in Australia, and we talk when we can, and I know wherever she goes or whatever, we'll always be friends and we'll always make time for each other. But I miss, because she's my other person that's I know I can be hey, you want to go do this today, and we'll, she's the person who calls and says, hey, you want to go do this, but other than that, I don't have anyone, and I haven't had anyone in this country in 3 years, so it's different.
Yeah. But yeah, so and so that was some of the thing. Yeah, I think, Jeff, you put it very succinctly. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we touched on that a little bit over our conversations, that idea of being antsy and I guess trying to strike that balance of we tend to have a dissatisfaction that maybe creeps in every 3 to 5 years about I don't know, location or what we're doing, or and then we just kind of act on it. But then you're right, there's both the thing that is a positive about that, not having a lot of deep connections, so that you can just jump up and move, because you don't have to worry about a spouse, you don't have to worry about children, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You just up and go, can be a con, because then it means that you're not putting down necessarily deep roots in a place. Yes, you're making connections, yes, you're making friends. And so I kind of, I was talking about that a little bit with Sara as well, that I feel most of my investment with relationships with significant others, because of things that have happened in the past, I feel maybe ones that have happened after that larger event have been maybe less shallow. And I've told you this story before, Jeff, and Sara laughed when but literally the person, talking about Star Trek again, the person that I dated. And I use that term very, very loosely and casually because of what I'm about to say. After the big breakup, I basically put it to this person in these terms, because I didn't know if I wasn't ready to date anybody again, but there was a bit of a connection there. So I explained it to her this way, and I said, okay, imagine we are on a deep space mission, all right? And, the Enterprise could be out for 2 years at a time. And everybody on the ship goes, you know what? We're going to be with these, however many hundreds of people that are on this ship, and we've got a little bit of a connection, and we've got these 2 years together. So we know that there's an end date on this. So let's just commit to these 2 years, and then whenever we get back to port, go our separate ways. And so the other person was like, okay, sure. They agreed to that, because they were also a Star Trek science fiction type nerd like myself, and they bought it. And then what started to happen was they developed deeper feelings than I think I was really capable of at that time, and so I kind of ended it. But again, that was sort of that's the headspace I was in. And while I feel there were some people after that where I maybe did have deeper feelings for, maybe it wasn't quite as deep, or me jumping in as completely as maybe I could have. I'll say that. Yeah.
Right.
So.
during your conversation, we had someone jump in and out of the live stream, so I don't know if it was Scott or not.
Oh, nice.
That's our next game. Scott or not.
Scott or not. But, so Scott. About, like, talking about things, I told Adam about my Portland experience and why, because I realized I always referenced it, and he didn't know, so I got to share with him that adventure of many life lessons. But yeah, because it's funny that you talk about, your deep space mission, because after I came back from
Which was
Portland,
great, which was a great analogy.
Yes. Deep space. No, but like
and
after that.
So when you came back from
expedition,
your deep space, yeah.
Right. It was, I was really, I didn't know how to trust or be around people. Like I was really sort of very raw and I had seen the worst of humanity. And it was sort of like, well, I don't know. And then like around the same time when I got back, this girl I had been friends with 10 years turned out to sort of have some of the same habits and qualities as the person I left Portland. And it was very heartbreaking. And I still have a lot of heartbreak about that situation, that friendship turned so sour. But after those two things, it was sort of like, fuck people. And I like people. I generally like people, but after, thinking someone's something and not, and then having someone you've known for 10 years turn out not to care about you in the way that you care about them, it was a double whammy. And, then karma gave me Jef because it owed me one, and so we're okay now.
I was just thinking while you guys were both telling your stories about being out there. Out there.
Listen,
I was just
Barnaby.
thinking, and I do want to hear about how the rest of the week is going, but I wonder if it's occurred to you guys both that so now you're back from outer space.
Yes.
And yes, you will survive, but also, how when you first get off a boat and you've got your boat legs, right? Mm-hmm. And all of your instincts and all of your reactions are still moving towards where you just were. And at least I experience this. And so sometimes it's hard to be where you are, which we talked about last week, which means it's definitely really hard to purposefully feel like you're a meaningful part of where you're going. And what is interesting to me about both of your lives right now is that, you went on a kind of adventure, and now both of you are somewhere where potentially you could put down not super deep roots if you don't want to, but you could at least, get some real heavy boots and put some big chunks in the earth and make an interesting path. And the people that might be in the next 30 years of your life might be where you are already, and you just haven't met them yet. And they might be the people that go on to wherever you do go next if you don't stay geographically where you are. Yeah. But that's hard. It's a hard mindset to be in when you're in a living out of a backpack mentality, which I understand. Because I was kind of, not that I was going as far out or whatever, but I was very comfortable on tour and coming back and like knowing that I wasn't going to live in that house forever in Columbus and all this kind of stuff. Like I was like, okay, well, I never know when I'm going to go. And I used to always have a suitcase literally just packed and ready to go. I think, Sarah, you did the same. And at some point I stopped doing that. And it took me a minute to be okay with letting that go. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. The rest of the week, how did the rest of the week go?
Yeah.
It was good, It had its ups and downs, I think, because we both were exhausted from Christmas cheer and stuff. Because Christmas, we didn't even hit 15 minutes because I was out until like midnight, and we were having connection problems. And I realized something, that I was really bad because I would always wait for Adam to call me because I'm horrible at calling people. It's just not my nature, and I felt bad when he's like, "Yeah, I'm always calling you," and I'm like, "Crap, sorry."
So I because we had made a schedule to check in at 11 that night. And I felt because it was so late at night and I was typically always the one calling you, I backed off a little bit. And so finally around 11:30, I finally called, and Sara was in the midst of something and so was going to call back, but I was exhausted. I'd been up since like on Christmas Day it was, and I was just friggin' exhausted. And so I then missed the call back, and I was also kind of not in a great headspace too because of some things that had happened here that day. So it was just, I was pissy because the call was late. I was pissy because of things that had happened here. And so it was literally just like a check in, just hit the bell, bing.
Sorry. Ding.
We'll see you tomorrow, bing.
Well, it's interesting because I think this was an interesting exercise in a kind of social bravery for you, Sara, because not to say too much, but there are times where I really have seen you struggle with making the initial contact on something as simple sometimes as a phone call, and you'll delay it, and you'll delay it, and you'll delay it, and you'll delay it until the other person takes the initiative, which sometimes doesn't yield great results because it's like, now I'm in a crappy situation because this person's mad at me because I waited to get in touch with them. And you never go so far as to say this, but sometimes I observe it seems to be, I could be wrong, because you are nervous about what that...
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
From an outsider, that just seems to be what happens. I don't know if it's true or not.
Like calling new people, I hate. I hate the idea of calling new people. Because it's, I hate phone conversations. I just do. And I used to love them as like a girl. I'd love to talk on the phone. But I was also seeing these people every day, too. But then when you take that out of the equation, it's really, like, you're listening to a person's voice, and that's great. And you're trying to connect to them, and that's great. But you're still, like, you still miss that. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, because mostly what would happen is the people I would call would then put me down and put me on speakerphone and go about their life. And I hate that. I hate the invention of speakerphone. I abhor it because it's like if someone is taking the time to call you and you place them on speakerphone and go about your life, it, to me, makes me feel like I'm not worth your time and it's not an occasion that we're speaking. It's like, oh, whatever. I can just
right.
talk at you and not be with you.
Speaking of talking at you, Scott is in the chat room.
Yes, because he has mind powers.
He dropped in and out earlier because he kind of dropped in the middle of the show, so he wasn't entirely sure what was going on because we moved the record time earlier. But so anyway, so he's around. I forget how far down the week are we at this point?
How far? Like how many
conversations? In?
We talked every day.
Every day. Yeah.
It was 6 days of checking in, and if you count the pre-show things we do on Sunday, I guess you could count 8. You could count 8 conversations, I guess.
Okay.
So continuous.
My question is so what now? What now? What did you learn about each other in a sort of a what's one big thing maybe you learned about each other, and what's the practical thing to take out of this going forward?
Well, I say we end the conversation right now, walk away, and never speak to each other again.
Cool.
That's going to make New Year's really awkward.
I'm putting it on the table. No. Okay.
All right. So, for New Year's, we'll just sit back to back and, we won't acknowledge each other. We'll just sit like this.
Sipping our tea.
Right. That Kermit meme that's that always has some sassy thing underneath while they're sipping their
Well, we make the joke, but was there ever a concern? Because the initial question was, sometimes you're connected by a person, and you wouldn't be otherwise. But was there ever, even in the back of your head somewhere, an actual concern that, we might discover something about each other that is just polarizing and that is just actually going to make things impossible?
I'll say this. I don't think we discovered anything that would make it impossible. I don't know if... from my point of view, my perspective, I don't know if I can say definitively that we would be friends outside of what is connecting us. You know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
think part of that is me just going, well, it is what it is. We are connected because of this thing. So I can't, I mean, yeah, we could kind of like hypothesize, but I don't know. It just, so I can't say definitively.
Right.
But I'll also say that maybe something I learned or discovered this week, in getting a more detailed, I guess, explanation of the events in Portland. I asked you or pointed out, I was like, eye contact. I talked about eye contact because I was like, one thing that always frustrated me when, at least, like when I first met you, which I lose complete track of time, but when
It was like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, because that would have been before I moved back to Lexington. Yeah, it was difficult. It was difficult to have conversations with you, and especially because Jef was in the room, and we talked about this because Sara could be in the middle of a conversation with me, and then all of a sudden break eye contact and start talking to you. It was like I had vanished. And it was frustrating because of the wandering focus. And so it felt like I don't know. It felt aloof.
I used to have the same problem when I was a courtin', trying to get her to go to sushi or dinner with me.
Oh, yeah?
Afterwards.
You weren't sure
we'd
what
have
the
all these
answer was?
conversations.
No, but that's not
Well, no, we'd
fair,
have these
though,
conversations.
Jeffrey.
Wait a minute. We'd have these. She had a lot on her mind. Okay, that's fine. That's
Sure.
true. But we would have these conversations like, oh, right, yeah, well, we should go to sushi after rehearsal or whatever. And I'm like, yes, please, let's go to sushi.
And after rehearsal, you would go and talk to your ex-girlfriend. So,
Sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes.
So Jef, you should stop talking.
I should.
As your friend,
But
you should shut up.
But there would be times
no,
where I would feel like it was
we
like,
were
okay,
around
bye.
kids. And, we were around kids, and I would wait around for a bit, but then it was sort of like I was just mentally exhausted. And then he was having conversations with Aaron and Kristen, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm going.
Yeah. So,
because it was like 10 o'clock at night. And for me, it's like you go to dinner, and it's like 8 or 9. But 10, I was like, I don't think anything's open. And then
yeah. And there wasn't.
I didn't know I was sending mixed signals. It was not my intention. But that's why I'm going to die alone with no friends. So
I'll just say that based on the conversation, having a better understanding, I guess, of where you were in your life at that time and what you were coming out of, it was I don't know. It was good information to have. You know what I mean? Because then I stopped taking the behavior personally because there was something else behind it. You know what I mean? Because from my perspective, I was just like, this bitch won't look at me. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with her? What's going on? And so there were just too many questions. So I'd say that was a discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
I learned that we were more similar. And it's funny because we have similar opinions on a lot of things, and we have similar flighty tendencies, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but that with connection, it's hard. I've noticed that it's hard, and so I find it interesting because I think we would eventually be friends outside of even if we didn't meet Jef, because eventually we would have taught together at the Springer. Or
through sheer force of will on your part, Sara, would you just kind of keep reaching out? Because I can see Adam being like, I don't know.
I text more than
let's do something.
I love the invention of texting. I'm a texter. Because I always have a million thoughts, a minute, and when I'm texting, it's like I have to be concise. Whereas on a phone conversation, I can be really ADD because I got a lot going on up here. So texting is good. I can communicate what I need to communicate, and then that's that. But I don't know, I think about when we taught that workshop together years ago, and I was like, yeah, okay, we can hang out. I mean, Aaron and I are friends now, and Aaron and I were connected through the Springer and you, and we've become friends. We hang out when you're not around sometimes, so.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to hope that in years, Adam, we will be friends.
All right.
Scott
even
says,
if Jef is not around.
Scott says, up for a challenge, riding the razor's edge of relationship-damaging arguments.
It really is.
I agree.
Really is.
Well, and Sarah, I'd like to offer something up that I don't think Sarah would offer on her own. And Sarah, if I am speaking out of turn, we will cut this out of the show, of every version of the show.
I don't care. You can say whatever.
But
I don't
during
care.
during the challenge, during the course of the challenge, which honestly, my initial impression was, well, this is a pretty tame challenge. Okay, they're just talking to each other. But when we would go to bed sometimes, and you have those moments where you're just talking to your person, she would say, what if he doesn't like me? Like, what if we have this conversation and he genuinely, and he doesn't like me? Like, and I'm not, and he doesn't want to be friends. What do I do? It was not okay in the moment that you were talking to me about it.
It was not.
You were
because
you were
you
seemed very
to you
genuinely raw and
well, people generally don't like me. That's why.
Well, I understand. I mean, and so I thought that was, I don't mean to share too much, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
That would be even a concern at this point. But I get it. But I get it because of the hypothesis.
But don't we all want to be liked? Like.
Well, yeah. Yes, we do. I mean, I feel the way we're wired. Yes, we need that approval from people. Jef may not. I mean, everybody needs it. Everybody needs it to some extent, and so I think Jef is maybe a little less dependent upon that type of acknowledgement.
It's called a what's the word? A lie.
Acting.
Yeah. Well,
but anyway, I just thought it was interesting that it. Go ahead, Adam.
To be clear, I'm not saying I don't like you. And so I hope that what I just said isn't taken that way. But if the question was right, I don't know. And again, because I haven't lived where you are, other than very briefly right at the very beginning. So I don't want to.
There's also an age
podcast.
gap. There's also.
Shut up, Jef. Shut up. I don't want to. I don't want to leave this podcast. I don't want anyone to leave this podcast with hurt feelings, because I have a need to be liked.
I don't have. No, it's not hurt feelings. It's
okay.
Because I think you're a very good and genuine person, and I think we're bound together now because we're, with Jef, but
I must not be a good and genuine person, because I was just thinking, I have successfully stirred the pot. Are you not entertained, Internet?
But I'm not upset, because you being blunt and being honest is how I would have said it. And so good. I don't take offense to that, because I know I say things and people take it the wrong way when I'm just trying to be honest. So I'm not offended or.
Well, good.
I agree, because we are so.
Then we've got that
experience. I mean, I remember you as an instructor when I was a not instructor, and and I have certain memories of you, but all the other times I interacted with you, it was more in a professional manner. So
sure,
I don't know, and I'm horrible at maintaining relationships, so I don't know.
Well, let me tell you a little story about Adam. So I remember, because Adam is a little bit older than I, so he was in school before I was. Even though, didn't you transfer from somewhere?
I did, because I went to the junior college in my hometown for 3 years, because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, and so it took 3 years for me to figure out that CSU was where I needed to be.
Right. So he was there, and I was there, and we were in college at the same time, and I remember thinking, he's so mysterious, and I remember thinking, I don't think he likes me. I wish he liked me. That would be nice. I think I would like to be friends with him. I don't think that's going to happen, though. He's got his people. He's doing his thing in his world. That ivory tower. This is before the beard. Now it's a bearded ivory tower. And I just remember feeling that that I had a good feeling about this individual, but I think I was making a similar assumption about Adam as Adam would have made about Sara in this imaginary universe where you had met on your own. Like, oh, there's a person. Okay, I'm sure they're neat, but I don't ever see how those worlds are ever gonna connect in any way. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and they'll keep doing what they're doing, and whatever. Like, I have no reason to dislike this person, but like, I don't know that we'll ever have any. Like, there's never a reason to assume that you are going to have a very strong friendship with a total stranger, because like when you watch a prequel, right, and you know that they're all gonna come together at some point, you know you're watching a bad prequel when the characters that are in it realize that. You know, and when you think about, if you really examine the relationships in your lives, and you got to think about how many of them were complete happenstance, how many of them were people that maybe you really not only thought you weren't going to have anything to do with, but perhaps for some people even actively disliked and misunderstood. And there might be relationships, it might be worth looking at the relationships in your lives, everyone, and saying, you know, where did those start again? And maybe take that fresh eye to who's around you now, and be open to the possibility that you just never know who they'll be to you one day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
don't shut yourself off. That's the nutshell version. I think. Don't shut yourself off.
We'll just do Adam's one-liner podcasts. So if you didn't watch Up for a Challenge number 10, here's the one-liner.
Don't shut yourself off. Don't be a hermit. Click.
Click.
Go to your social interactions.
Go out. Talk to people.
Go. Right. Why are you living in your cave? Was there anything else about the challenge or observations or Sarah? I don't know if you got to say everything that you were looking to say about what happened this week, or Adam. I don't know if I don't want to cut any trailing thoughts off. I just thought we'd.
I think we covered
move it along a little bit.
I think we got it all out. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, then I'll do a little segue here. This is our last show of the season.
Penultimate.
No.
Isn't that what it means? The one before
because our New Year's show is going to be Assembler. It's going to be
a different show. Yeah,
U4C and Art Technique together.
Whatever.
It's all the same thing.
I'll be the only taco in a hot dog stand.
Oh my.
You don't know.
Adam might undergo a major life change between now and then.
Yeah, I got a whole week.
And now his heart is open. And we're all going to meet new people. And I guess the flip side of that is think of the people that you like now that you might hate later. I guess that happens too. I forget about that. Anyway, so this is the last show of the season. We will do the Assembler sometime in the New Year's-ish time frame. I don't know when yet. I don't know if there will be a live part of that, or probably not a live part of that. But Scott will be bringing his girlfriend from Canada.
I love Canada.
Major life changes all around, and so we'll put that up whenever that happens. But before we wrap up the show for the year, are there any thoughts or challenges or maybe personal challenges for yourselves or for the world at large going into the new year? I won't call them resolutions.
Okay. My personal challenge to we're getting into an election year. Vote. Just vote. I want you to vote for my people, but that seems selfish, so I'll just say vote. Go out and vote.
That's good. Sarah, do you have any kind of challenge for the new year?
I do. For myself, I want to work on getting strong. Like getting strength, like weight training or whatever, but like inner strength, whatever that means. Just getting stronger in learning new stuff.
Well, that's good. I think my challenge to myself and I think to everyone would just be finish something. Finish something big. Something that you could be remembered for after you're dead. Like take it to that level.
Like a steak, like a food challenge.
So you're saying that after you're dead, there will be legends of the time that you boa constricted that snake.
Yep.
I mean steak.
Whichever.
I remember when Adam detached his jaw
and slid it down my warm gullet.
And then walked around motionless for 3 days because he had to digest.
Anyway, so that's my challenge. Finish something.
Oh.
Finish something. And I'll start
that's a good one.
By finishing this podcast for the year. Anyway, yeah, go do something big and actually finish it. And I think that will be exciting because then you can sleep happy. We should move on to sign-offs. I'll start. I'm Jeff, and first.
I'm Sarah Lynn, and I'm going on tour to maybe not make connections. Who knows?
I am Adam, and I don't know, something Star Trek-y since we talked about it a lot.
That's right. We do.
Let's see here.
Can't use
the Internet, the final frontier. These are the podcasts of Up for a Challenge. Its continuing mission to seek out new dares and new things to do, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Is that good?
Us last season.
Oh. All right.
That's
Failing
good.
is learning.
That's good. Yay.
Failing is part of the process. Fail boldly. Fail boldly.
Fail boldly.
Be bold, be brave.
All right, stopping broadcast.